able to do that this afternoon. So the instructions I need to give you are, number one, you will need to set forward because the General Tucker has a camera on his side as well, and he will want to see you. The second thing is, at the end of his presentation, there will be a question and answer section. There's a white X on the floor. I will be standing there with a microphone. I can't bring the microphone to you. We've got to have it there so the camera can see you as you ask your question of General Tucker. So if you have a question, if you'll please come forward, and then the camera is in the very back of the room. You'll need to turn around and face the back in order to ask your question so General Tucker can see your face, okay? So having said that, I would like to introduce Major General Tucker. He is the Army's Deputy G3 since July of 2012. Major General Mike Tucker began his Army career as an enlisted soldier in 1972. He received a commission as an armor officer in 1979 from Officer Candidate School and has served over 20 years in the 1st Armored Division in Germany, commanding a company, a battalion, and a brigade. A veteran of Operations Desert Storm, Iraqi Freedom, and Enduring Freedom, he most recently commanded the 2nd Infantry Division in Korea. A great supporter of education, Major General Tucker established a warrior university in Korea that has enabled over 8,000 soldiers to attend college. So without further ado, Major General Tucker.
Well, first of all, thank you very much for that kind introduction. I have to tell you that it's about 1,700 here in the Pentagon, and down here in the Army G3 shop, we're kind of catching our second wind at this time of day. I'm also cognizant that I should be there with you and not here, but we've kind of cut our strings on a lot of TDY, so I'm sure certainly you can appreciate that. And it's not lost on me that the current weather there is 73 degrees with a north-northwest wind at only 12 miles an hour, and here it's 41 degrees overcast and drizzle, so you're probably in a much better place. I'm excited to get the opportunity to speak to you, and several months ago when I was asked to come speak at this venue, I was excited to be able to get the opportunity. I think that all you folks represent some of the best things that we can offer our soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marines, and our family members, and our Department of Army civilians. Your collective group are the portals through which we reach through to achieve our goals, specifically our personal education goals. Newsweek did an article a couple of years ago, and in this article, they referenced a study that determined that there's absolutely, without question, no better investment in a person's life than to invest in their personal education. I've used that several times when talking to soldiers and trying to convince them that this is probably something that they should pursue. And oddly enough, contrary to popular opinion, and when I say soldiers in the context of my conversation today, I mean soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marines, and Coast Guardsmen. But they have more time on their hand than we probably have appreciation for. In fact, they have too much time on their hand, and that's usually what causes them to get in some trouble. I have to say that I have always found the Army Education Centers, which is I have mostly dealt with. I dealt with some education centers at Maxwell Air Force Base at one time in my career. But all the Army Education Centers that I have encountered have been absolutely 100% accommodating to our needs. I think that that if anything that I have been able to do that's different as a leader, it's to put a great deal of emphasis on removing the hurdles and the obstacles that prevent people from pursuing their education goals. And as we all know, there's many of them, and too many people succumb to these obstacles, and the result is that they do not continue to pursue their education goals. And truth be known is that we're all better off if everybody were to do that. Another study, in fact, this was it was published in Military Officer Magazine back in November. It counted for 6 good things when comparing high school graduates with undergrad college students, college graduates with undergraduate degrees. The college student graduate was healthier than the high school diploma, less obese, doesn't smoke, is a greater volunteer, votes more often, and has greater job satisfaction. And so that's just illustrative of some of the benefits that we all as a society can enjoy. Back to my own experience, some of you may know that a long time ago when I was a private in Germany, I had a friend that was going to college courses at night, and back in 1972, there wasn't a lot of soldiers going to college. In fact, most of the sergeants in my units all were Vietnam veterans. I was one of the few non-combat vets in my unit. I was in a tank battalion, by the way. And but one of my best friends was going to college. I said, I think I'll check that out. Now, I had just gotten out of high school, and college was the furthest thing from my mind at the time. But I went over to the education center. I met this nice gentleman. I'll never forget his name. His name was Mr. Milton. And I said, I want to do some of this college stuff. And he put his arms around me, and before I know it, I was in English 101. And it was one of the hardest things I ever did. But I pursued it, and one of the things that allowed me to pursue it was my first sergeant. Oddly enough, here's a private in the field, and the first sergeant says, hey, Tucker, you're going to college at night, aren't you? I said, yes, First Sergeant. He said, I tell you what, do you have class tonight? I said, I do. It's all the way back in Erlangen, which was about an hour drive away. But I knew I was going to miss class because I was in the field. That's just how it is. He said, I tell you what, when I get through serving chow tonight, you get in my Jeep, and I got to go back to the rear anyway to pick up mail or something. He said, I'll take you back. And so he took me back I attended class, and when I was done with class, I went back to the orderly room. He put me in the Jeep, took me back to the field. I didn't ask him to do that, but he did it. And that continued as I continued to serve over there. And so just personally, what I've tried to do is pay that back. And so when I had the opportunity to command a tank battalion at Fort Stewart, Georgia, there's about 500 soldiers in a battalion. We had about 29 soldiers in the battalion going to college when I got there. That was back in 1996. And I went to the education center, and I said, I want to start classes for my battalion. I want to get these kids in school. I want to make this easy. And they responded, if you can get the enrollment, we'll get the classes whatever time you want them to be. And so my thought was, I'll let the soldiers off of school, off of work at 3 o'clock in the afternoon at 1500, and we'll run the classes till 1800, and I'll make the mess hall stay open a little bit later, 30 more minutes to let some of these soldiers eat dinner. But I'll let them off of work. So I'll give them 2 hours, and they'll give me 1 hour. And you can, as you suspect, I had a great deal of pushback from the non-commissioned officers, sergeants, and the lieutenants, and I said, listen, there's not a lot going on after 3 o'clock in the afternoon, whether you're in an office or whether you're in the motor pool, unless you're in the Pentagon. But I said, look, we'll just have to do without those few soldiers. And we forced it on them. We called it Rogue University. And so we went from about 29 soldiers going to college to about 250. And on Mondays, Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, they got out of work, and they were allowed to go to school. And it wasn't easy because it was a huge shift in culture, and there was a lot of pushback, perception that these soldiers were getting over, they were slackers. there was not enough classroom space, the paperwork was too hard, and the soldiers were getting hung up. So I wrote a policy letter, which battalion commanders are allowed to do, and I wrote a policy letter and said that soldiers in Rogue University will not be assigned to any duties that would prevent their attendance to class, and it takes my level of authority to change that rule. And I just, through, I don't know, brute force, began this Rogue University. And then suddenly you saw a change. After about 2 semesters, the sergeants were coming back and saying, you know, sir, that's really not a bad idea. Those soldiers are really motivated. And the truth is that soldiers that are going to school are obviously highly motivated. They show a great deal of initiative and self-discipline, which are all qualities and traits that we expect from all of our young soldiers, and those are the things that we aspire in young leaders, and it's the traits we look at for promotion. And so the truth is that they were the best soldiers. And, you know, as they began to take more classes, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday wasn't doing it for them. They had to start going to classes on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And as I found later on when I did the other universities, that the truth is that most of the students, most of the kids in that program were not going to school on Monday, Wednesday, Friday. They were going on Tuesdays and Thursdays on their own time or on the weekends for all the right reasons. So when I got to Germany as a brigade commander, now I had 5,000 soldiers, and we had about 250 soldiers going to school. And same thing, education center, and we created what we called Ready University, because we were the Ready 1st Brigade in Friedberg. And I think Gray Edwards is in there with you, and he was our education director there in the community. He helped me do that, and I'm indebted to him for it. And so we went up to about 2,500 students there in Ready University. And then when I was fortunate enough to command a division in Korea, when we got there, we had about 1,200 soldiers going to college in the division, which is an acceptable number, I guess. But we were the Warrior Division, the Indian Head Division. And so we started Warrior University, and we went from, like I said, about 1,200 students. We peaked at around a little over 8,000. One of the things I noticed, especially in Korea, that I really hadn't noticed in the other applications of this plan, because I just didn't pay attention to it, was in Korea, I had a re-enlistment rate of greater than 41%, re-enlistment for the present duty station. They wanted to stay there because they were allowed to pursue their education goals and go to school at the same time. But more remarkably was I had a 54% reduction in crime. Crimes against people, crimes against property, sexual abuse, domestic violence, DUI, all of it. It was absolutely unbelievable. Suicides dropped, and so it was kind of like, you know, this Warrior University thing is it's good for you, regardless. And we actually tried some initiatives. I'll just share with you some of the things. I mentioned earlier that you know, one of the problems with this concept is the soldiers will try to skip class, because that's what some soldiers do. But the Education Center was good about providing a sign-in roster, and they'd simply provide that back to the unit so they could make sure, so the first sergeants can make sure that soldiers went to class, and we just simply hold them accountable. The other point, other hard thing to get over was getting non-commissioned officers to go to school, which is also very important because they're your junior leadership, they're your mid-management, and they need to go to school too. And this is all good because the Army rewards soldiers that go to college. You get promotion points for it. It's seen as a very positive thing that you're doing. Obviously, it's a display of self-discipline and initiative and motivation. And so trying to get the non-commissioned officers to go, because they not part of their culture. And so we really pushed hard, and we started to get more non-commissioned officers to go. And that was certainly a plus. We ran out of classroom space. We had so many classes going on, we didn't have enough classrooms. And we were doing classes in the motor pool, in the mess hall. We were doing classes in every place we could get a classroom. And then it occurred to me by this point in time that there's this thing called online classes that are accredited. But we didn't have enough Wi-Fi, cafes and places. And so we put Wi-Fi in our dining facilities. And this was another win-win because, it's a facility that's already there. It's climate controlled. It's got plenty of desks and tables. I just put the staff duty NCO in there at night to make sure no one's swinging from the chandeliers. And I didn't let the cook pour out the coffee or the brownies and throw them in the garbage. So they kept them there at night, and I had that dining facility open from 5:30 in the morning till midnight. And it kind of became a student union because our soldiers now live in barracks that are what we call 1+1, and they used to live in bays, open bays with like 7 or 8 soldiers in a room. Well, when I was a private, for example. And now soldiers are in their own room and they share a common bathroom. But that creates isolationism, which is not necessarily good, which lends itself to a lot of self-defeating behavior. The dining facilities became impromptu student unions because we don't have day rooms in the barracks anymore. And so where do soldiers go to socialize? And they've lost a lot of their socialization skills because of all the media. I mean, they tweet each other and text each other and they'll sit at I've seen situations where children in families at home at dinner text each other to pass the biscuits instead of just simply saying to their sister or brother, would you pass the biscuits? So this dining facility thing I think was good, and it was very inexpensive to put Wi-Fi on the dining facility, as you all certainly can appreciate. We had to take advantage of rewarding good students as well. People like to be recognized, and so we took the opportunity of soldiers are making good grades in pursuing their education goals. We'd recognize them. I would send them a letter of recognition as a division commander saying, I understand you got an A in Biology 101 this semester. That's an indication of your own self-discipline and initiative, and we're very proud of you, and we wish you more success as a student. Again, doesn't cost a lot, high yield, low cost type action. And we actually, once soldiers were tenured at the school that they were attending, we had a ceremony, and we brought in all the other soldiers and the chain of command in the gym, and we built a little stage, and we walked these soldiers across the stage and presented them with a certificate of achievement and recognized them in front of their peers and in front of their leadership. For them, it was like graduating almost. But we made sure that it wasn't that, but it was this fact that they've achieved tenureship with that learning institution. And we saw that as a big deal. And of course, people like to be recognized, especially young soldiers pursuing their personal education goals, who are most of the time far removed from their family support mechanisms. And so that's kind of what we were able to do. We've had good success with it. And I thought I would talk for about 20 minutes, and I think I'm at that mark. And what I thought I'd do now is open it up for questions at this point so you could perhaps dig a little deeper into some of the things that I've talked about.
Okay, I'm here. You'll have to come up here. We have to bring the questions need to come up here, please.
I think this is only fair because I've been talking to an empty podium this whole time.
Just turn around, state your name. Oh, there's the camera. My name's Amanda Norman. I was wondering, how did you guys decide what courses you were going to offer first for the Rogue University and the Ready College that you did too?
Yeah, that's a great question. Well, first of all, we wanted to. It was the Rogue University, the Ready University, and the Warrior University. But anyway, we wanted to focus on the population, and we offered primarily 100-level courses, low-level undergraduate courses initially. As it matured, some of the soldiers are up in the 200, 300-level courses. We actually built a program that you could come to Korea, for example, on a 2-year tour and get an undergraduate degree if you took a certain path, and they tailored the courses to that. But to be succinct in answering your question, we focused it on the entry-level education level of those soldiers. Most of them, 90% of these soldiers, high school diploma. Some of the soldiers had to take some extra classes at the Education Center to improve their English skills and their math skills, which was very easy to do, and there's numerous programs that allow them to do that. But that was the methodology. Thanks for asking.
No problem.
For schools who don't have the kind of support that you provided at your installation from the command, do you have suggestions for how schools can generate increasing support for soldiers to be able to focus on studies?
Well, I think that social media allows us to reach out to a lot of people. I also think if you're working through the local education center, they can help you get access to the military population. I think there's some agreements that have to be done. Obviously, I'm not very much well read on all those requirements, but there's people there in that room that certainly Gray Edwards I know can tell you. But I think that I think this is an absolute, to use an old military term, this is low-hanging fruit. These soldiers, sailors, airmen, these Department of Army civilians, and these family members, because as you well know, soldiers can transfer those credits to their family members. They want this. Some don't actually know they want it, but they do want it. We just need to be a little more aggressive in trying to provide it to them. And like I mentioned earlier, if there's a single key to any success that I was able to achieve, it was removing hurdles. And so I would suggest that we look at why aren't they not taking classes? What's the reason? And let's figure out, can we do something about that?
Thank you.
That was a great idea. Stand right here with this light. General, thank you very much for your service and continued service to continuing education for our soldiers. From my former armor officer, Lieutenant Colonel Gregory Fontenot, 1st Infantry Division, 10-year Army veteran Chris Winters with the Painters and Allied Trades. Thank you. Just a quick question. We have a pilot program at Joint Base Lewis McChord, Washington State. Miss Amy Morash couldn't be here today, so I wanted to number one, to thank the Pentagon for supporting a pilot program for apprenticeship programs. They're actually, the Veterans in Piping through the UA United Association is actually training soldiers while they're still in uniform, getting 3 hots in a cot, sustainable life, while they're transitioning out. So they're getting college credits through state certified apprenticeships, and while they still have that family and soldier support group. Just a note that we're hoping that the Pentagon, and with this the budget crisis, that with these programs, apprenticeship programs that are free and supported and sustained by our employers and businesses and all of these colleges that we have that are here today, and we're just overwhelmed to be here. We'd hope that the U.S. Army and the Pentagon would continue to support state-certified apprenticeship programs for these soldiers, sailors, airmen, Coast Guard, and Marines as they start to transition to civilian life. So just a note of thanks from the building trades and from an Army veteran.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Talk to you about Dana and Greg. General Tucker, we wish you were here. But it's great having you on the. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, General Tucker, we wish you were here, but it's great having you on the VTC. I'd just like to say we wish we could have a 2-star general that could become our director of education for all the armed services. You would be a tremendous asset to all services, and so just keep the uniform on, and I think we found a job for you, sir. And I think you'd probably should be able to get a 3rd star out of it, and you would be welcome to control, even the Coast Guard. I think the Coast Guard would buy into it. We would have all services, and you would be the Director of Education for the Armed Services. But thank you very much, sir, for being with us, and it's tremendous. I look forward to seeing your son when he comes to Fort Benning for the Captain's Career Course, and thanks again, sir.
Thank you, Gray. Appreciate it. You know, I think the Navy is a great opportunity because all those sailors are on a ship. They can't like leave the ship, so you got them. I mean, they're like captive, and you know, you got a public address system on there, so you can talk to everybody whether they like it or not. What a great opportunity.
Hi, General. I'm Bill Harvey from Penn State. What needs do you see that we have to get better at meeting as a group?
Well, I think that we kind of touched on a few minutes ago. There's a need out there, and I think if we were to really apply our resources towards giving these people access to higher education and making it as easy as possible for them to do that. If we would leverage a great deal of effort towards that objective, I think we'd reap the fruits of our labor. I've had hundreds of conversations with soldiers about this very subject is an understatement. And I don't have time, it's too hard, whatever. And you just simply take on those obstacles one at a time until they succumb to their own good judgment, to be honest with you. And you also offer courses that appeal to their needs, and they'll come. And I think that many of you in there, because you're all professional educators, would agree that once you get them in that first course, after that they're kind of on autopilot. I mean, there's probably no better feeling of self-satisfaction than it is to pursue your personal education goals, because you're doing, you know, what I would tell soldiers is that you're doing something for yourself that no one can ever take from you, ever. And so when that starts to resonate with people, and I think we need to capitalize on that kind of approach.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, sir. How are you?
I'm terrific. I'm in the Pentagon, and I've got climate control. I'm not outside in the rain right now, so life is good.
My question is, I'm on a military installation 2 or 3 times a week, and there is a lot of concern about the soldiers that are departing the Army here very shortly. Are you able to give us a short update on the progress of how that's happening, and what do you think the impact is going to be regarding these soldiers when it comes to their education?
Well, there's about 88,000 soldiers going to leave the Army in the next 3 years. As we draw down to, we're about 576,000 right now. We're going to draw down to about 490 in the active force. The President has signed the VOW Act, as we all know, and the Army has invested a great deal of attention into its transition programs. And I've spoken to the people that lead those programs and shared with them my story that I've shared with you here today. And that we've placed a great deal of emphasis on allowing soldiers to begin aggressively pursuing their education goals a minimum of a year out before they begin their transition, and allowing soldiers the opportunity to do that. In fact, it's one of the smartest things we could do, because a lot of people may not realize this, but the Army is responsible, as all services are responsible, for paying the unemployment for our service members when they depart the service. And so, like last year, the Army, we spent over $500,000 on unemployment checks, and this year it'll be even more. And so, I mean, not to sound selfish, but it's certainly in the government's best interest to facilitate these military members that are going to transition out of the service, facilitate their pursuit of their education goals long before they begin their transition, so that they're set up for success when they get back into the civilian sector. And there's probably no better entry on a resume than to express, that you've been pursuing college courses, because again, to have done that is a reflection of your personal self-discipline, motivation, and initiative, which are certainly traits that all employers would want.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions? Okay, at this time we'll turn just a moment, General, over to Joycelyn Groot, our CCME president.
Okay.
General Tucker, thank you very much for joining us today. It was such a pleasure to have you. We wish you were here, but it was pretty cool having you come from the Pentagon. I brought Gray up because I'm going to present your gifts to him. And then if you get them, you can thank him. If you don't, you know exactly where they landed.
Okay.
And tell him the wine will, I'll hold the wine till you get to Fort Benning, sir.
All right.
But we have a CCME desk paperweight. We have our new CCME logo for our 40th anniversary on a bottle of local Callaway wine and our 40th anniversary coins. So thank you very much.
And I'll get them.
Thank you.
I'll get them
Thank
mailed
you,
to you, sir.
All right. All right. And thank you very much for, let me just say again, to recognize all of you who do this for a living. We really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you again, General Tucker.
Thank you. Wow, I'm on the big screen here. Okay, Mike, you should.
Everything's working so well. That was wonderful. I thought it was really cool having him come from the Pentagon. It almost had more oomph to it that way. I wanted to just take a quick moment before we bring up our last speaker today. I wanted to have Bonnie come up. Bonnie Orvik. As you all know, Bonnie was the motivator behind our CCME endowment for scholarships. And each year we give 1/2 of our membership costs to the foundation. And so this year, members, we are presenting to our endowment $31,672.
Wow, thank you. And thank you, CCME members. Great.
Oh, we don't need a picture. And now Jim Yiannopoulos will come and announce our last speaker of the day.
Thank you, Joycelyn. I gotta put these on. Somebody said they were getting old. Joycelyn's not the only one. All right. Jonathan Woods could not be here today. Dr. Jonathan Woods could not be here today, but he sends a message, and let me read the message. Navy acknowledges the strength of our decades-old partnerships with academic institutions, as well as positive gains in student achievement, cost control, and lives impacted by our partnerships. While we regret that current temporary fiscal constraints are affecting our ability to travel in support of further strengthening our bonds with CCME membership, we reaffirm our commitment to sustaining these relationships. Many of the membership have reached out in the past with personal correspondence, and Navy remains open to such communication. In the meantime, we hope the membership will welcome our local representative, Mr. John Richardson, who I'll introduce in a minute. He has responsibility for executing the Navy's voluntary education mission across half the globe and supervises about 40% of all Navy employees engaged in VOLED support. while the analysis of factual data he intends to present should interest the audience, his no-nonsense approach will surely delight you as well. With great respect, Jonathan O. Woods, Chief Navy Education. At this time, I'd like to introduce your speaker, John Richardson, who many of you know. I've worked with John for, gosh, John, it's been 23 years. It's about 23 years, anyway. Mr. John Richardson has completed 23 years of naval service, retiring as a Master Chief Radioman in 1982. Included in his assignments were USS Gunston Hall, USS Windham County, USS Ernest Small, USS Samuel Gompers, USS Henry B. Wilson. He's served in Yokohama, NAVCOM, SEN, Long Beach, and Com Crude Spec staff, and also Navy Recruiting District in Denver. After retirement, he was an instructor at Radioman A School and Communications Technician C School for 7 years. He began his Navy career in 1989 as an education technician at Navy College Office, NCO, NAS, Miramar, just up the street. Subsequent assignments within the Navy College Network: Education Specialist at Navy Campus Afloat, San Diego, NAV Base, San Diego, from 1989 to 1994. NCO Director in Yokosuka, Japan, 3 different tours. NCO Guam, NCO Coronado, between 1995 and 2006. Mr. Richardson has been a regional director since 2006. He was assigned as Navy College Far East Regional Director from 2006 to 2008, managing and supervising NCOs in Yokosuka, Atsugi, Okinawa, Guam, Diego Garcia, Misawa, Sasebo, and Pearl Harbor. Mr. Richardson was assigned as the Navy College Southwest Regional Director in San Diego in 2008, managing and supervising Navy College offices at Naval Base San Diego, Naval Base Coronado, Naval Air Station Fallon, Nevada, Naval Air Station Lemoore, Naval Base Ventura County, Naval Air Station Corpus Christi. In April 2012, he became the Western Regional Director, adding to those responsibilities Great Lakes, Kitsap, Whidbey Island, Tinker Air Force Base, Millington, Tennessee, Pearl Harbor, Guam, Yokosuka, Sasebo, Atsugi, and Misawa again. John is married to the former Miss Makiko Ari and has 2 children, son Kelly, who lives in Poway, California, daughter Dolores, who lives in Lake Oswego, Oregon, and they have 6 grandchildren. John?
Thank you, Jim. I got a feeling I should have croaked a long time ago. First of all, I'd like to thank all of the schools, and especially members of CCME, who continue to support us and to bring the voluntary education program to our sailors. General has told you everything you need to know about the Navy. Not only that, but I don't understand Dr. Wood's no-nonsense thing. So, anyway, I'm going to give you a little kind of a snapshot of what has been going on with Navy education for the last 3 or 4 years, and what we see, if we can see anything these days, about the future. And I promise I won't take too long, so you can time me. I only have 65 slides. Just kidding. And next slide, please. All right, the tuition assistance has always been the cornerstone of all of the services voluntary education programs. We have looked at an increase in tuition usage and a fight with the tuition assistance budget every single year. Dr. Woods has indicated to me that he expects that the fiscal 13 budget will probably not be cut, and we're hoping for some additional help after we figure out what sequestration is going to do to us. Okay, next slide, please. Costs are always an indicator of, do we have enough in our budget? Can we predict what's going to happen this year, next year? And surprisingly enough, the costs from 2006 to the present has really only gone up about $100 a semester hour, or a course, I'm sorry. I would have thought it would have been a lot more, but we're seeing our counselors and your folks are doing a very good job of allowing students to make educated decisions on where they want to go to school, how they want to spend their money, and hopefully that continues. And of course, the cooperation from you folks always helps us. Next slide, please. This is an interesting little graph. Part of it surprised me. If you look at 2003, our distance learning expenditures were about 30% of our TA costs. Instructor-led or face-to-face, 70%. So by 2012, they just about flipped. We had 66% distance learning and about 34% face-to-face. But the interesting thing to me is that in 2012, the face-to-face learning began an upward swing. So I don't know where that's taking us, but I think that when we talk to sailors, in most cases they indicate to us that they would prefer to take a class face-to-face. However, necessity makes it almost impossible for a lot of them. The General mentioned sailors that are on a ship. It is virtually impossible for a small ship to have face-to-face classes. Some do, not very many. Most of the time it's carriers and the larger decks. So the distance learning programs become about the only way that they can continue. Okay, next slide, please. The dollar amounts that we spend on distance learning as opposed to instructor-led courses, again, the face-to-face class expenditures are in an upward trend. And in 2012, we spent about $65 million on distance learning and about $28 million on instructor face-to-face classes. The trend had been going just the opposite for at least the last 5 or 6 years. Okay, next slide, please. The number of sailors that use TA leveled out in 2011, and basically 2011, 2012 were pretty much the same. And some of the management controls that we put in place, we believe, were at least partially responsible for that evening out or reduction in the number of participants. One of the biggest factors that the Navy decided to do was to make it mandatory that sailors at their first permanent duty station, it's when they got out of boot camp, got out of school, went to their first actual command, that the first year at their permanent duty station, they could not use TA. And one of the reasons for that is the professional things that they have to do when they first go to a ship, for instance. They've got all kinds of qualifications that they have to take care of, and this gives them and their commanding officers the opportunity to concentrate on making them a sailor first and then going on to bigger and better things. Okay, next slide, please. Enrollments, basically, we're looking at the same thing, obviously. When the management controls were put in place, then the number of enrollments was reduced. And it stayed pretty steady 2011, 2012. Next slide, please. The average number of courses that a sailor takes hasn't changed much in the last 9 or 10 years. In fiscal 12, the average number of courses by a sailor was 2.9 or 3 classes. We have some limitations in our TA rules where a sailor has a maximum of 16 semester hours per fiscal year that they can use TA for. And as you can see, the average sailor uses about half of that, and that's been historic. We have very few people that actually go over or try to go over the 16 semester hour limit. Next slide, please. This is interesting to you. The top 25 schools by enrollment for the Navy, and I'll just talk about the top 5 because I don't know if we can read all that. In fiscal 10, number 1 was American Military University. Number 2 was University of Maryland, University College. Number 3 was Coastline Community College. Number 4 was University of Phoenix. And number 5 was Ashford University. And if we move on to fiscal 11, AMU still was first, and University of Maryland, University College, again second. Ashford moved up to third. Coastline fourth, Phoenix fifth. And in fiscal 12, a little bit of difference. University of Maryland became our highest enrollments. AMU second, Ashford third, Coastline fourth, and Columbia College was fifth. And what we see here is the vast majority of these top 5 schools are distance learning schools. And that kind of looks at what we were looking at before with distance learning trends. Okay. Next slide, please. This is kind of interesting. I was surprised to see this. In fiscal 09, the undergraduate non-completion rate was 16%. In fiscal 11 was 7.7%. So whatever controls we have in place apparently are doing some good because you folks your completion rates are really high with the Navy programs, and hopefully we get a little bit better. Some of the things that we've done to help this, I believe, the downward trend in non-completions, we require an education plan for every student first time they take a class. And again, we talked about the requirement for within the first year of their first permanent duty station, not being able to use TA. Implementation of the Virtual Education Center for TA processing gives our counselors a little bit extra time counsel and make some good choices. Online and DL courses continue to improve the ease of use, and Navy really appreciates the efforts put forth by you guys to make these things a little easier for these sailors and a little more inviting for them to be able to complete these. You know, everybody says that, oh yeah, these young kids coming out of high school, they're all computer savvy. You know, we don't believe that. We believe that they are game savvy and they can use a computer, but when they get into a learning environment, much more difficult, and you guys are really helping make that easier. And the economy, such as it is, has enabled the Navy to recruit actually an academically higher quality sailor because they're picky at who they take and who they keep nowadays. Okay, and it looks like the fiscal 12, this thing stopped in fiscal 11. Fiscal 12 has basically the same trend lines as we see in fiscal 11. So that's good news for us. Next slide, please. Okay, the TA requirements that the Navy has, they have to have passed their most recent physical fitness assessment, passed their most recent rating examination, not in duty under instruction, status, recommended for promotion, no non-judicial punishment within the last 6 months. We allow TA funding for only one degree at each level. So for instance, if the sailor has a bachelor's degree, he's got to go to the master's level and not get another bachelor's. No funding for continuing education units, an approved degree plan prior to TA authorization, and the sailors have to serve the 1 year. I think that our limitations on the budget for TA has kind of made us do some of these things to kind of keep this under control. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, the impact of the requirements. Sailors are now required to be at their first duty station. I think I've said that about 8 times. So they can focus on their initial qualifications. Ed plans are required before TA is authorized. And we do this so they focus on completion rather than just taking classes willy-nilly like they used to. And again, the overall TA participation has been reduced by about 14% over the last 2 years without any real outcry from the deck plates. Sailors don't even really notice that. What we have called that is right sailor, right degree at the right time. Okay, next slide. Last one. So in fiscal 12, we started talking about the DoD MOU. Oh, by the way, Carolyn, did you get replaced? Oh, okay. We look daily at the alphabetical list of institutions on the DoD website and have advised our students that they are attending a school that has not signed it, that they need to pay attention because tomorrow's Black Friday, right? Okay, we don't fund doctoral degrees anymore. Students must reimburse the Navy for Fs or Ws at the undergrad level or for Ds at the graduate level and Fs. In fiscal 13, we reinstated clock hours. In other words, we're allowing students to obtain a certificate and have limited that to one certificate program in a career. Those are the clock hour programs that we got rid of a couple of years ago. And DOD has delayed the start date of the DOD MOU until tomorrow. Okay. So the bottom line with us is the educational counseling is the key enabler of mission readiness. You know, we always say, oh, okay, voluntary education is not mission essential. Well, that may be true. However, we think that it is an integral part of the command being mission ready. We give personal interest inventories, academic placement tests, distance learning readiness assessments, academic skills support. In our professional readiness programs, we have apprenticeships and vocational mapping with the U.S. MAP program, where a sailor can document every day on-the-job training and prepare themselves for the possibility of being hired at a big company rather than as an apprentice, as a journeyman. Language proficiency. Currently we have 12 sites that administer the Defense Language Proficiency Test, Defense Language Aptitude Battery, and we hope that expands a little bit to let some of the local Navy College offices participate in that. Credit by examination. We have national test centers at every base, co-located with every Navy College office to allow them to give CLEP exams, TSSTs, certificate exams, GMAT. Review of the recommended American Council on Education credits. That's a TA saver. And review of academic program offerings to include SOCNAP programs, distance learning partnership, and any non-affiliated programs that happen to be around our bases. Okay. So, with that, I'm going to say Navy College, voluntary education works fine, lasts a long time. Okay, any questions? And Jeff, you have to face me.
Hello, I'm Ginny Newman. I'm with Penn State World Campus.
Oh.
My question is, do you have any plans to change the Distance Learning Partnership Program?
The person that runs the Distance Learning Rating Partners program was supposed to be here, obviously is not. They do periodic reviews, and he is looking at that right now to see if we want to do another review this fall. And that information should be coming out shortly from him. I don't know that there's going to be a review this year or not, and I won't know probably for another 6-8 weeks. But we'll let you guys all know if that comes about this year. But he does do a periodic review. Okay. Anybody else? Oh, good grief.
Another important VOLED program in the Navy is NC PACE.
Right.
And I'm curious what the expenditures of NC PACE are relative to TA and what the number of courses are in NC PACE relative to the number of TA. You probably don't have it off the top of your head, but you might have some general information.
No, I don't have it on top of my head. The NC PACE enrollments obviously are much smaller than our TA enrollments. We have 11 schools in the NC PACE program. And we have everything from associate degree classes to graduate programs in the NC PACE program. If you're not familiar with what NC PACE is, it's a program that we have instructors actually go on board ships and teach face-to-face classes, and we also have a distance learning program that the 11 schools are all involved in. Currently, the primary contractor is Central Texas College, and the subcontractor that looks after the distance learning program is Coastline. You used to be there, right? And but I don't have numbers off the top of my head, but the TA budget this year was $60 million, and the NC PACE budget is probably around 4 to 6 million. So much different. Okay. Anybody else? Okay. Thank you very much.
Well, this was a great day. It has been an honor to serve as the 2012-13 CCME president. I think our conference went very well. I want to thank the board. I think we did an amazing job of pulling this together. I want to thank our attendees, our speakers, our exhibitors, our members, and our sponsors. I would like to give special shout out to our photographer, Penny, and I'm never going to pronounce your last name, so I'm not going to. Where are you? There you are. Penny, you do awesome. Thank you. I also just want to give shout outs again to Karen Conlisk, who actually just took my key to go to my room, but she's been amazing behind the scenes. She's from Coastline Community College. Mebin Harrison, who's just an amazing spirit, did a lot of background work on that past president's reception that I thought was so well received. Thank you, Mebin. Alicia Miller and Louis Martini from Thomas Edison State College handled this hotel, the logistics, the food, everything you enjoyed this week, so thank you so much. And I also want to thank the Hilton. Erin Blackman, I don't know if she's here, but she was our event liaison for the Hilton, and she really stayed on top of things for us, so we really appreciated her and her team. The AV, they did a great job, so thank you. We will post slides on our website from the sessions, any slides that we've collected from our speakers, any videos that were done, we'll put on our website. We'll also post them to Facebook, and we'll tweet them, or tweet something. We'll tweet. I don't even try. Okay, evaluation. Don't forget to do your evaluations. They might have already been received in your email. I don't know, Jenny's so on top of things. No, but Monday. And don't forget, we asked under the comments section if you can just put that one person who made a significant contribution to your learning this week. I think that would be a neat thing for you to do, and we would like to share that with those individuals. So please do that. So with that, I am going to close the 2013 40th Anniversary Symposium. And I want you all to write this down. This is Michael Heberling's email address. If you need anything at all, email mheber@baker.edu. Love ya. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, she's closed that one. This is the 2014 conference. I just want to personally recognize everything that Joycelyn has done. She's been a role model for me, so I'll be able to just follow to do the great job that she did. So I want to give her a gift for all the work that she's done. She's been so busy giving everybody a gift, and I just want to thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
And I just, again, I want to invite you to be there at Savannah next year, February 10th through 13th. We'll see you then. Thank you.